Some of my most frequently asked questions on this channel have to do with driving in Thailand. Whether you want to come and rent a car, or maybe you just want to grab a motorbike to cruise around the city, there are quite a few nuances to driving in Thailand that might be a lot different from your home country. Today we're just going to go over some basic safety stuff, some of the process when it comes to renting vehicles here, and ideally help you guys be set up and be ready and do everything you can to stay safe if you do plan on driving in Thailand. Now, of course, one of the most important things when you're on the road, regardless of where you're driving, is of course safety. So I just want to preface this by saying that, of course, I am no expert by any means, but I have been on motorcycles, especially for the majority of my life. That goes from everything to dirt, to street riding, to tracks. So I do have quite a bit of experience, and there are a few things, especially when you're riding in traffic, that might not come as totally obvious that you definitely need to do to make it as safe as possible while you are riding. Now, of course, motorcycles are dangerous. They will always be dangerous, but there are quite a few things you can do and ways that you can learn to approach certain situations to make sure you are as safe as possible. Now, today we've got to make a bit of a journey over to North Pattaya. I'm going to show you guys a bit of the rental process so you can know what to expect when you're going in if you're looking to rent a motorbike or possibly a vehicle here. Now, vehicles, cars, trucks, things like that are a little bit different. They usually are a little bit more stringent. Motorcycles, for the most part, are a little bit more laid back, but I'm going to take you over to a place today, kind of showcase how they do things and give you a better idea of what to expect when this is something that you're planning on doing. Now, the main piece of advice that I give most people, especially when it comes to motorcycles here, is you don't necessarily need to be an avid rider or enthusiast to be able to cruise around a bike here and be really safe. But if you've never really been on a bike before, or maybe only one or two times, I don't really recommend that you go through that learning curve here in Thailand. It can be a little bit less forgiving than a lot of other places just because there aren't as many traffic lights. People kind of cruise in and out of traffic more as how they please. Lane lines quite are stringent to other drivers. So if you're not used to being on a bike, if you don't feel like you're wholly comfortable just riding on a bike already, I don't really suggest for your safety that this is something that you decide to learn in Thailand. Now, of course, probably the most important aspect of riding motorcycles in general, no matter where you are, is of course safety equipment. Now, I will never ever recommend, no matter where you're going, no matter how slow you're driving, that you never wear a helmet. Now, when it comes to body armor, pads, things like that, you won't see me wearing a lot of it. Don't say that that's not necessary. If you'd like to wear more protective equipment, good on you. I always suggest, though, the three things that you need are obviously a helmet. I suggest a pair of gloves. If these gloves have some more rigid parts in them to protect you from the pavement, that's great too. And good shoes. When you come to Thailand, you will see lots of people riding in sandals. I do not recommend that at all, especially if you're a newer rider. If you get into trouble, your first instinct almost always is gonna be to put your feet down. And when you put your feet down in sandals and you're cruising down the road, you can say bye-bye to your toes, which I've seen happen firsthand, and it is not something that you want to experience. So, helmet, a lot of places, rentals will have helmets provided for you for an extra charge. Gloves are super necessary because if you go down too, one of your first instincts is always to put your hands out so you don't want to shred your paws. And good shoes. That way, if you do go down, your feet are sliding or whatever, if you do get into a hairy situation, you can put your feet down and you're a little bit protected at least. Now, that brings us to the rental process. Now, most places are gonna be pretty straightforward. Most of them have a daily deal as well as weekly or monthly. So if you're planning on being here for a while, I definitely suggest just going ahead and going for a monthly or weekly deal. Generally, it ends up being a little cheaper per day. Now, when you go into most of these places, it really depends. If you're getting a bike, sometimes they'll ask for international endorsement, sometimes they won't. It really depends on the level of bike too. Now, if you're wanting to go get a big super bike, something like that, obviously obviously the requirements are going to be a little more stringent. Now, when it comes to deposits, some places will ask for a cash deposit. Other places will hold on to your passport for the time being. Now, as you being a traveler and your passport as your key to the world, I would definitely suggest going for a cash deposit. That way you can make sure you've got all your stuff and nothing gets misplaced. Now, some places will also accept a copy of your passport as long as they can make it themselves so they can see the real one in the time being. But generally, it's pretty straightforward. Now, when it comes to cars, it can be definitely a little bit more stringent. A lot of the time, they will ask for an international endorsement. Some places won't. It really just depends. It's really up to the place. And when it comes to prices, sometimes it is a little bit negotiable, but for the most part, the prices are pretty much set in stone. Now, if you are planning on coming to Pattaya and you want to rent a bike or a car to maybe cruise around, experience the city a little bit better, that brings us right into today's video sponsor, Best Motors Big Bike and Car Rental here in Pattaya. It's great. They have a couple different locations, one here in North Pattaya as well as one in Jomtien. So no matter where you are in the city, one is readily available. They have everything from scooters all the way up to big bikes, SUVs, sedans, anything you might need to experience your Pattaya trip a little bit more comfortable. They have a very easy to access online store where you can go in, you can just pick your vehicle online, go ahead and reserve it for when you get here, then just come in, fill in your paperwork, drop off your passport or your deposit like we talked about earlier, and you will be on your way. I'm here today. They've been super accommodating. They let me borrow a bike for a week, so I'll go ahead and review that too. Everybody in here is super nice and very, very approachable. Plenty of people that speak good English, so that's nothing you have to worry about. And the process is super streamlined, especially if you use their online portals. So if you are coming to Pattaya and you are looking for a rental, anything you might need, they can get you taken care of. So make sure you check them out. All their info as well as their website and social media will be linked in the description below. Now, when it comes to actual safety when you're on the roads, there's a few things you can do to kind of mitigate the chance that you're gonna end up as a splat on the concrete here somewhere. One of the big things that I see a lot of people do, especially when they come to Thailand, is just going and getting too much bike. Now, even if you've ridden big bikes a few times in America, it's a lot different here. It's a lot more crowded. There's not as much space. The roads are a little less forgiving. So me, even in America, I've had multiple liter 1000cc bikes. And even this CB650, like you see behind me in Thailand, it's a lot of bike. Even for me, you have to constantly be paying attention to what you're doing. So if you haven't had extensive experience on big bikes and don't feel wholly confident, if you're intimidated by a motorcycle, it can be super, super dangerous. And also the complete opposite of that, if you're overconfident and you feel like you can ride almost anything, anywhere, I would definitely really think about what your capabilities are and keep yourself honest, because there's no point in you crashing for something that's super avoidable. Now, another one that I see a lot of, beginning riders tend to do, especially when you're riding with lots of traffic, the one place you never want to be, whether you're sitting still or driving, is right in the middle of somebody's bumper in front of you. 9 times out of 10, people don't use their rear view mirrors a lot, especially when they're going down the road. They use their side mirrors. So you always want to be to one side or the other. And there's also another reason that this can help, because that essentially, if something happens, it can give you an escape route. Now, ideally, you want to be on the left because it's better to have to run up on the sidewalk than it is going into oncoming traffic. But if you're on a one-way road, I like to stay towards the right because I don't really want to go towards the telephone poles or anything like that. But always make sure you're staying on one side or the other. Don't be sitting right in the middle when you're behind a car. And then obviously blind spots. If you are going to pass somebody, do it quickly. Get around them as fast as you can. I really don't like to drive right next to somebody, especially if it's a car, because people tend to start merging and then look, and on a motorcycle, all it takes is one little bump and you're going down. So that's just 2 things. Besides that, everything else is pretty straightforward. You always want to be parked in safe spots. You don't really want to sit right behind somebody. Ideally, when you get to a traffic light, you want to do your best to get up to the front because you don't want somebody flying up behind you that's not paying attention and rear-ending you. So pretty much what it boils down to if you are planning on riding in Thailand is know your capabilities, do your best to stay out of sticky situations, know how much bike you can really handle, what you're gonna be comfortable on, that way you're not overconfident, you don't put yourself in a position and grab a handful of whiskey throttle and park your bike in the back of somebody's pickup truck. As always, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to Tempus TV, and thank you again to Best Motors for sponsoring today's video. If you do have any more questions about riding motorbikes in Thailand, or maybe just motorcycle safety in general, feel free to drop them in the comments, shoot me an email, anything like that, and I will be happy to help you out. Like we always say, I hope you have a great day. We'll catch you in the next one.